We are live, ladies and gents. Another episode. How you guys all doing?
I'm alright. It's pretty much a par for the course week.
I'm loving the
There's
outfit. I'm
yeah,
loving it. Definitely
we're
on
in the
point with our
gear.
topic for today.
Yeah, we'll get it. The audience will know why I'm dressed like this.
Oh my god.
It's like a Duncan Trussell. I come with a costume.
I like it.
For the theme.
I like that every episode you're dressed a little bit differently. I like it
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. So yeah, I'm doing well. Personally, all good. Work, you know how it goes. You park up the vans, dock the forklifts, log off the computers, lock up that warehouse, and then you go to Fagan's in
There you
Woodlawn.
go.
That's what Thursday is for me.
Bobby A, a
But
man of the people.
yeah, with the Union boys. Joe, what about you?
How you doing, Joe?
I'm good. I've been out and about as well. I'm gonna go up to Astoria after this. But but yeah,
Yeah, I was told about that. I don't
oh
know.
yeah, yeah.
I may slide in there. There's
I
a
don't
slight chance. I don't think so though.
yeah, you
Either.
gotta record your shindig. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, audience, I'm a little sick, so these two gents are going to be running the show for the most part. I got my tea, so hopefully my voice will be luxurious and liquid.
Yeah.
But you might see me pop off here and every once in a while just to let out a cough and not ruin your earbuds.
Yeah,
But what do we got? Yeah, what do we got on the docket today? What do
You
we
sound a
discuss
little
today?
nasally.
I'm a little
but
nasally. I was
yeah.
hoping it to get into my deeper
It's not.
register, so I had a more of a Chad masculine voice. But it's just going to the
No,
nose.
yeah, it's not the worst. And watch out for that logo on that mug. No
Mm.
free ads on the Draxx Life. Yeah,
We do take sponsors, but
if we
yes, no free
if they
ads.
if
Oh
that
my
if
man, Bobby A he's on
yeah
point. He's keeping his eye out.
Whoa,
yeah
whoa, whoa, whoa. I
if that
see
company sponsors you, you're doing something good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I see a little HBO ad behind you, Rob.
Oh, do I? Oh yeah, no, but it's an independent book. I don't think HBO had anything to do with
Okay.
that text. But all right, so what are we talking about today, Joe?
Let's
We're
kick it
talking
off.
about um, government conspiracies, the
Yep.
shadows, the files that were allegedly supposed to be released.
Yes, we got a couple topics, right?
Yeah,
So earlier this week there was the Twitter apparently was
yeah,
under attack, had a
yeah.
DDoS attack.
There you go.
So we're going to talk about, since Rob was unaware of what this
I don't know
anonymous
who they
group
are.
is,
Yeah,
we're going to discuss that. That's why he's wearing his Mr. Robot outfit. He's definitely
exactly
fitting
why.
in to this hacker lifestyle.
Yeah,
And from there, I also want to talk about some of the right. We're supposed to get all of these releases. That was one of the things you see in X and all of this is the releases. We're going to get the Epstein files. We're going to get the JFK files. All of these other files. So I kind of wanted to just talk about what are some of the files that we should be expecting, and like, do you guys really think any of this stuff is going to come to light, or are they just going to like rickroll everyone? Is it just going to be like a bait and switch? Like, oh, it's coming next week. Oh, it's
old
coming
school.
2 weeks from now. Ah, it's coming next month, and then eventually just never comes. So those are kind of some of the. We can kind of like again do a little conversational parkour. Let's start with the hackers, and then let's roll into that next topic.
Yeah, Joe. Who's anonymous? Explain that to me.
So Anonymous is like this hack Activision. I'm sorry,
Hacktivist.
Hacktivism. I don't know why I can't get that word out.
It's all right. English is not your
Um,
first language.
Yeah, words
I
are
mean,
hard.
this this whole thing isn't my forte, like leaks and stuff like that. But I do know a little bit about Anonymous. They started like as this like 4chan like trolling like group, and then they moved over to like doing more activism. I think their first foray into doing this stuff was with Scientology,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to um, get the word out how evil a brand or a organization like Scientology was. So they like organized this like this protest against them. think it was like in like 2008 or 2009. But yeah, they just started going from there. I think from there they moved on to WikiLeaks because I think there was a bunch of credit card companies that were blocking donations to WikiLeaks from Julia after Julian Assange got outed about leaking some information from embassies and then the State Department. So
Yeah.
they like, I think you alluded to it before, Chris. They had like a DDoS attack where they just flooded their website so it wouldn't work, and then after a certain amount of time, they just rolled back and the website started working again. So that's just their pretty much their mo. They just flood websites so that they don't work for a certain time, and then after that, the damage is kind of um, undone after a certain time frame. But
You,
go
okay,
ahead.
so my question for you that is, are they dedicated to exposing truth, or are they just do they just want to cause disruption? Like, what's their end game?
I think it's more so disruption, but I would say it's a little bit of both. I don't know if
They're
you have
merry
any.
pranksters. I think that's the way you should look at them.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right. It's actually funny that you brought when we were having our chat,
Mhm.
and you were like, "Well, like what hackers? What are like?" It seems like this is a kind of an area of the internet that you're really not familiar with. Is that correct, Rob?
That's very correct. Yeah.
which
All right, cool.
surprises me. I
Yeah,
thought
which is we're gonna open your eyes to a whole subculture, and then you see the
Wow.
beautiful part about Robert Avery, Bobby A, is that if you do give him a bone, like you just give him the nugget of something, you tickle the taste buds of his imagination. By next week, he will know more about this topic than you or I, Joe.
Yeah, I'll get to the marrow
We just
real
gotta
quick.
open the buffet and give him a little sample.
Mhm.
He's at the mall food court and he's just trying different things.
well,
So
Oh
that's
yeah,
all we're trying to do
exactly.
here.
I'm ready for consumption
Yeah.
of knowledge.
So do you recall, just for fun, like we're old enough that do you remember the Hackers movie?
no.
The movie Hackers, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, cool. I like that movie. And I think
Yeah.
many hackers of today probably lifted off from watching that movie. It inspired them. But
Mhm.
like hackers and like hacktivism, right? So like what are hackers? Hackers is like kind of a catch-all phrase in the world. Like, you also hear things like black hat, red hat, white hat, which are almost like evil hackers versus like hackers that work for good, and then there's like these neutral hackers. It's almost like Star Wars.
Mhm.
So within the community, they even like labeled themselves differently. So like a hacker that would hack for money and is kind of like a mercenary, I think that's like a black hat. Whereas like a white hat would be like someone who's like uses their computer like ninjutsu skills for good. They're like considered like a white hat. And then you have hackers that actually like hack into companies and businesses in order to find out like a gap, and then they let the company know. So they're almost like they're like out there in the world trying to find locked doors, and then they tell the owner like, "Hey, this door is not keeping people out. You need to fix it." So like it's a whole world. No, hacktivism, like this term, it was coined. I was trying to look this up earlier. Like hacktivism, the term, I think it was coined in like the early, might have even been like the late.
2010s,
It might have been even the 90s. I'm seeing.
really.
So write this down, Rob, because you can go on a deep dive later on. Look up the cult of the dead cow.
The dead cow. Is
Cult
there a
of the
significance to that
dead
term?
cow. It's like the name of I think like a hacker collective in the 90s.
All right.
So Anonymous is just kind of like a revival of other a reinvention of like similar organizations. So they're like a collective where I don't think there's any like key leader, right? They are essentially just like
Decentralized.
they're decentralized. I think they even consider themselves like an archaic community, and like periodically like they'll get riled up and focused on one target, and then they work together in like a concerted effort to like take down that target.
Okay.
But like there's no like it's like there's no head of the snake. It's essentially just like this multifaceted, like loosely formed organization. And they wear, like, if you see them when they're pictured, it's the guy with the Guy Fawkes mask, like the V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
and then they just like do stuff. So like some of the stuff is very like basic, like not basic in how they did it, but like elementary in that like where they'll spray paint a website. So they get in and then they'll like deface a website. I think they did that for Scientology. Like you're a liar or something, like, you know, they're going to like, so when you go to that website, it'll just be like whatever they want you to see instead of like what that website actually represents. So they'll do stuff like that. And then like a DDoS attack is essentially where, oh dude, man, you're going to like have so much fun after this episode.
This is great. I love it.
So
I'm
like,
all boned up over here.
Right, with hacker
Oh my
communities.
God.
So like with the internet, really your power is like how many bots you have, how many computers you have control over. And like one person might have like 10, like a million computers that somehow they've infiltrated. And now if they need them, they can like use all of them and aim them at a target. So like a DDoS attack is essentially when these armies will use their armies of computers and flood a website with just activity.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of like websites, they can't there's only so much activity they could handle at a given moment. So you can overwhelm them, and then it's like a dam collapsing. Eventually you'll just take down the whole system. They can't handle the and then once, you know, things will go back to status quo either when the DDoS attack is over, right? Because they can't maintain it forever, or somehow they're able to like, you know, shut down whatever's being attacked, and then the website can kind of, you know, reboot. But you see this, and like it's funny with Elon Musk, he talks that they're always under attack. All of these websites you go to, they're always under attack. It's kind of an interesting thing. It's like the Mongolians at the gates of like, you know, the Great Wall of China. Like they're always trying to find a place to break through. It's just a question of on a given day, will they find that place, and will they have enough resources to do a lot of damage? So it's like this cat and mouse game where like the security people are trying to keep the hackers out, but the hackers are always probing, trying to find a weakness that they can take advantage of.
That's a great summary. There's I'm assuming these big internet companies, not assuming, I think it's probably a fact that I'm going to state, they have like a defense department to protect against all of this.
Cybersecurity, right?
Yeah.
That's like cybersecurity essentially is like the
it's
advertised version of hackers, right? It's like, all right, it's just like someone who, it's like you know, for everyone who makes a lock for I'm trying to think, like a lock cracker, it's like two edges of the same coin, right? It's like there's someone that's trying to break it, and there's someone that's trying to prevent it from being broken.
Mm-hmm.
And then you make some improvement, someone else figures out how to break it, and then it's just back and forth. So you have like hackers out in the world trying to like find ways to infiltrate, and then you have cybersecurity professionals who are essentially trained with the same skills, trying to keep the walls up and protecting the company, the business, whatever.
Okay, so someone who has a programming coding background like yourself, what always escaped me is what if I'm going to sit down at a computer, how do you hack into something? What do you do? Like, are you going to URLs, or is there like a I'm going way back to my high school, like C++ class, C++, like Java and C++ classes that I took. Is it still? It's probably way more advanced now.
Well, so like I'm in no way an expert, because like hacking is also, it's kind of like, it's a broad term. Like I would say all hackers, they know how to program with computer languages, but it's like a much more like eclectic variety of skills.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like you need to know how to program because maybe you're programming something, but it's also about the ability to like navigate systems, knowing where like certain pieces of information are stored. They have like a very broad set of skills. Programming, though, is kind of like an underlying fundamental skill. Like you're going to know how to program, but it's more than that. Like I, to some degree, know how to program, but I'm in no way could I like it would be, to me, to learn how to hack and break into systems would be a whole other, you know, set of skills I would need to learn and study. that, well, you need the one, but it's not like, oh, if I know how to code, I know how to hack. It's not the same.
Okay, all right, I get it. So like the the computer language is the basic foundation, but if you're gonna infiltrate something, it's another level. It's like a
Yeah, it's
step up.
like it'd be like I need to know how to English to write English poetry,
Right?
but just
Yeah,
because
I
I know
get
how
where.
to write
Yeah.
English,
Doesn't
does
mean
that
you're
mean
gonna be
I'm
a
a
good
great
poet.
writer or a
Yeah,
great poet, right?
yeah,
It's like
I
a
get you.
foundational thing I need to know. I
Yeah.
definitely can't write English poetry if I don't know how to write in English. But once I've learned how to write in English, now I need to like learn rhythm and all of these other skills and creativity that would allow me to translate that into
All right, yeah,
poetry or
that's good. I get you.
fiction.
So Joe, for you, what do you think is the based off of that? Like, what's the allure? Why are we as humans attracted to uncovering secret information
Great question.
and the allure of like not just conspiracy theories? Well, I'm gonna get to that later, but why do people want to like uncover information that's being held from the general public? And in this world, in the internet world, it's a whole nother level. It's not just physical documents, it's like digital information.
It's pretty much just unlocking power, like being able to take down powerful organizations or governments. It's really more just trying to be subversive, trying to go against the grain. That's where I see why people go into that field.
All right, so what about like I think you're the best person to ask this question, Joe. Chris, you can chime in if you want. What about like the Hollywood obsession? I wouldn't say obsession, that's a stronger word, but there's a lot of Hollywood entertainment that like depicts hacking and uncovering truths and everything, but in real life there's kind of a juxtaposition, because in real life people are like, they want to keep to themselves, they kind of ignore the big picture of what's going on, especially with things like theories. And I have a question for Chris after this, but why there's like a natural human reaction to people like dressed like me on a computer uncovering deep truths that people are trying to hide and keep public.
I think there's always been a fascination with that, but more so like during the '60s with like the Kennedy assassination. And I think there's just this pervasive thought that there are so many secrets that are being hidden from us, and that it's time that's all be that's it's time for that stuff to be unlocked. And I
Mm-hmm.
think over time, that the group that were, I guess, the baby boomer group that were part of that generation that saw all of that change go through, it's part of their psyche, and they're the ones in media that are putting out stuff like TV shows and movies
Mm-hmm.
that depict a lot of this. And I think that's been passed down to their generations, like our group, like millennials, where we kind of started watching things like X Files and created things like what's that show that you refer to, Chris?
Mr. Robot.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah, that's a
Robot.
big one. The Matrix is, I was just going to say,
Yeah,
big
that too.
franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
No,
finish show. Yeah.
no, you didn't cut me off.
Um yeah, I mean, I think to
Yeah.
Joe's point, I do think it's like an innate human thing, right? People want to know answers. Now, does everyone, to your point, Rob? No, not everyone. But there's definitely always that like subculture, that percentage of like, I think, society that is like unwilling to accept like what the answers that are given to them. And then I think with hacking and that kind of subculture, you have that community is that percent of the human species 100% makes up that subculture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also they have the skills, since we live in the digital age, to now navigate this kind of like interweb and find information. So I think it's like kind of a natural thing. Like, why do people do anything, right? Like, it's just like because you can. So like I think that's like a lot of the hacker subcultures. Like fundamentally, it's like I can, right? Like
Yeah.
I have the abilities, and like why not? Like if I can get into this company's website, and not even to do anything bad, just like I know the combination to their front door. I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
anything bad
like
in there. I just want to see
the
what they
safe.
got. Like I want to look around, right? And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of like with the internet, right? Like that's the weird thing. Like if you think about the oh dude, I'm so happy that we're talking about this because this is gonna lead you into
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
an interesting YouTube
Let,
searching. But
let it flow. Let it
like think
flow,
about like
baby.
the internet, the early foundations of the internet were this mindset of like Wild Wild West,
You're right.
freedom. Like
That's
if you knew
true.
how to navigate things, you could find information.
Hmm.
There was really no arbiters like there is now. Like we
The
all interact.
gatekeepers.
Yeah, we interact with the internet. Most people through Google, right? But that's like you're only touching. Like you've heard the expression of like the dark web,
Hmm.
right? Google is essentially a spider, like in the Matrix, like those mechanical spiders
Hmm.
that's scouring the internet and it's creating a roadmap. So when you go to Google and you search for something, it navigates you to websites that it has scoured and also has decided that it will allow you to access. But that's not every website. I mean, there's many websites that you might not be able to find through Google, right? So Google is in a sense like an arbiter, it's like a gatekeeper, right?
Hmm.
The early internet was kind of like Wild Wild West. You could probably do anything on it. And I think a lot of this hacker culture found its origin in that, like like freedom of expression, freedom of knowledge, freedom of data, like go anywhere, do anything. And now the internet's become more commercialized, right? Where it's like, no, you can't go here, you can't go there. And I think the hacker ethos is kind of like rebels against that. Like, no, I have the skills, I have the keys, I can go wherever I want. And I guess
Yeah.
it's like you.
It's,
I mean, and
it's
you think about
cool.
it, you get these high schoolers who like get into big corporation and government systems, and they go to jail or like they can get in a lot of trouble. But it's just like a high schooler. Like I can get in there. Like why shouldn't I go there? And that's I think that is like at the core of just like the motivation. And now you add on top of that like philosophical things like, if you're this philosophy or this political ideology, now I have all these tools, I can get into things, and now you start to use them for, whatever purpose you want. And that's where you get people who use their skills for good, quote unquote good, and then you have those people who use those skills for evil. Like now you have the Sith and the Jedi
Oh
Yeah.
god.
that live in the internet. I
Yeah.
mean, it's true, right? Because you have hackers who blackmail people, who like do things to like fish and get your data and then steal all of your money, steal whatever they can. Those are hackers. And then you have hackers that are like what we're talking about today, like going against Scientology or going against a regime in a certain government. So you have two sides of that coin.
Yeah. You just there's like five things I want to say now. I'm not going to remember all this. That's why I wrote it down. Um, that's good because then my initial reaction is uh and both of you, any one of you can jump in. There's what do you think? Because I think you're right, Chris. There's the natural reaction as just a human being to wanting to like investigate things and inspect what's really going on. Like everyone wants to know what's going on under the hood or behind the curtain. That's just a natural human thing.
Hmm.
Now, are you going to do that for good or are you going to do that for bad? So now we segue to the shadow masters. Do they know that this inclination, this natural innate inclination exists, and are they going to they're using it maliciously to try to control people? So they're giving you disinformation, they're creating things like Instagram and TikTok so that instead of actually investigating and doing true journalism, you're watching people dance for 15 seconds and it's distracting you. You see what I'm trying to say? Like they're using that natural human instinct against you so that they can operate in the shadows and manipulate everyone.
Go ahead, Joe. You take a
Yeah,
crack at that.
No, you go with this one. This is
that's a
definitely
deep one. That's a deep one.
And
Yeah.
we're this is like
Yeah.
Joe's not. This is not his wheelhouse.
nope.
He's like,
Yeah.
um, yeah. I mean, he's bread and water. This is sriracha.
Yeah, but I'll ask Joe, like
Uh-huh.
in terms of entertainment, then, which is kind of your forte. I think I see a lot of that as well. Shit that's not good makes a lot of money. Why is that? Marvel, you can explain it to me. Explain to me why there's another Disney show right now, another spin-off, the 20th one that Disney Plus has put out. Did you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
Joe? I know Joe does. What the hell is going on?
I think
So
a little bit of that is just comfort, just
yeah.
knowing that okay, I can go home and then turn off my brain and just watch something that's just comfort. It's kind of like white noise sometimes. That's what some people do.
I'm definitely I fall victim to that. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah.
No, I'm just wondering why would
Yeah.
the general public be fascinated with uncovering like new things or hidden things, and it's usually I think it's this idea that we're being toyed with, we're being played with, and it's time that the wheels are kind of like tossed on its side, and things should be changed.
Mhm.
But usually that doesn't happen. Usually it's just really more. It's just that things are uncovered, and then like Rob always like points to the 24-hour news cycle is like fast and heavy, and things get highlighted. Like let's say these leaks that were supposed to come out, which I don't think they will. I think it's going to be more of like a like you said a bait and switch, Chris.
Hmm.
I think even if they do come out, things happen so quickly that it'll be forgotten by a majority of the public within a few days or a few weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah, you're right. Like the Luigi Mangiano, the United Healthcare thing. I'm
Hmm.
still on the pulse of that, but everyone, yeah, I haven't heard anyone speak about that for
I
weeks.
think that'll come back up once the trial starts. But yeah, it's just there's so much going on.
yeah. I mean, and maybe I misspoke earlier. Like, I don't think the majority of people like are seeking answers, right? I don't think that's the majority. I think it is like it is kind of a fundamental human. There is a quality in us,
It's a curiosity. Yeah.
but I don't think like so. I think it's all late. It's latent. So like part of our species is like we find new things and we try new things, but that might be only like a few people in a group that then find the thing and then everyone else benefits from it. So I don't think like I think the majority of people, it's like, dude, there's only so much time in the day, right? And there's only so many things you can put your focus on. I think for a lot of us, it's like these things are not important. And to your point, Rob, it's like if you want to believe in like the powers that be, which I don't know if I
Mhm.
believe in like a grand, conspirator. Um, but I think like it's like back like Roman Empire times. Like there was a reason they put on these wild games, right? I mean, you see the Gladiator, like the movie Gladiator. It's a great like scene where he talks about like the games, right? Because the games distract people.
Hmm.
It was entertainment. It was free entertainment, right? And it wasn't. It was just human beings are like easily deceived by entertainment, right? Like you give them a lot of noise, they're focused on that, and they don't pay attention to like okay taxes or prices of food and things like that. So I mean I do think any powerful
Yeah, that's
organization
fair.
historically, any government has always done that. Like it's like out of the playing book of Machiavelli, probably. It's like give them something to be distracted by, and okay, then go over here. It's like sleight of hand. So I definitely think like that is like whether you want to say it's TikTok or whatever, I think like, yeah, entertainment in general has always been a powerful tool for the masses. Like, I'm going to kind of go off topic for 1 second, but like, I keep going back to gambling. I'm furious about it because I'm even seeing. So I'm like, I have Hulu, and I downgraded Hulu, so I get ads. So many of the ads are gambling, and it's not even sports betting. I didn't even realize that all of the casinos now have their app,
Mhm.
so you can play. You know, the what is it, the
MGM.
Borgagio or the MGM, and you can play like craps in the app. You want to talk about how to like deceive people and keep them entertained and bothered? Like, you could go down that conspiratorial rabbit hole. Like, 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of people addicted to gambling and to games and to, you know, the thrill of that, the feeling of that. That might be, you know,
True.
you could go down that rabbit hole and say, well, why now are all of these games being allowed to exist? Maybe it's because we want people addicted to something, keep their mind on that, on their phone
Yeah,
playing
that's
this
what I'm getting
game.
at. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, no,
in
that's what I'm getting at.
that
Yeah.
flock of sheep that are bothered and busy doing, you know, just living life, I think there are those who are like, are the outliers. And I think those hackers are kind of like that. They're like, nah, I'm not satisfied with these answers. I'm going to go find my own answers. And a locked door is not going to keep me out, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. That's gambling is such a that topic just in general is we should do another episode on that because it goes way deeper than just sports. I think we focus on like the morality in sports,
Correct.
but what about the like the engineering behind it, the ethos behind it? I think that's even worse than actually producing that. But
I mean, they're drug
yeah,
pushers. Like, if you're an
yeah,
engineer on that, it's like you're a drug pusher. You know you're a drug pusher.
yeah.
You know you're a drug pusher when in big bold letters is a phone number to like
But it's
Gamblers
legal, Chris.
Anonymous.
That's the crazy part. It's legalized now. So
Yeah, and that we can do that another because
yeah,
it's probably one of the few things I'm like very angry about.
yeah. I can tell he's worked up. It's like me. They know who they are. We'll talk about you tonight. They know who they are. It's like so. All right. Here's the next point. So speaking of that, that's a good transition. There's are you think through all these internet activities that I'll go to Joe first. Are we being surveilled? The level of surveillance, because with the gambling apps, with all these like the iOS and the Android Google apps, you're putting all your personal information. Everything is there. The level of surveillance that can take place. What do you think about that, Joe?
There's no
They know
question.
everything. They know everything about you.
No question.
Yeah.
All these corporations know every little detail about what you do, what your search history is, uh, what you buy. Everything that you do on the web is tracked. So there's no question that that's all out there. And if and on top of that, you have stuff like the Patriot Act, where like, well, at least in the United States, where the government can look over all of your data as well. So it's like a twofold thing. There's no question to me that all of that is out there. We're being tracked, and we're being all our digital footprint is it's all over.
Yeah. So, is our digital footprint going back to what Chris said earlier? Is it being used in a good way, or is it being used to exploit people? I would go. I don't even know where it would go. I think it's both ways. I think it might be more the latter, though.
I don't even think it's being used in a good way. I
Yeah.
think it's definitely exploitation. Like, just when I think of Google using their search engine to feed people things that they might want to buy because they searched a certain thing. That I think that's pervasive. That's kind of predatory. There's no. I don't think there's a reason why that should be allowed. If someone wants to buy something, they're gonna buy something. Just to then feed slowly but surely and constantly feed ads about that are things that are similar to what you might have searched, it's definitely it's alarming to me, and I don't think that's something that should be done. And that's part of the reason why I sometimes I want to actually, like, I have my, and it doesn't really help because they still can track it, but I have my user account signed off on Safari, and even then, when I'm logged in into YouTube, I have certain things turned off, but I know that they still track it. It's just all for, like, for show, to show that, to show the consumer that Google is trying to take your data a bit more seriously, but I know they don't, and I feel like most people don't. They just want things to be easier. They want to be able to go onto Google or YouTube and see the things that they normally like, but it's just very alarming to me.
I think you bring up a good point
Mm-hmm.
though. It's like there's trade-offs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, ease is a trade-off, right? Like I think when we talk about like because now we're kind of going into like just internet privacy and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
To be private on the internet takes effort and it takes knowledge, and for most people that's not a trade-off that's worthwhile to them. Because you can, I mean, you can go and find there are methodologies you can employ to be differing degrees of private on the internet, right? Maybe not 100%, but like you can definitely decrease your footprint, but it does take effort, and you do lose ease. And I think that's like, with a lot of people, I think that also is a human thing, is like we like the path of least resistance.
Yeah, convenience.
So yeah, convenience. So it's like the fact that like I can log into Google and now Google knows all my passwords, right? And I don't need to remember my passwords because
Mm-hmm.
they're in Google, and any computer I get on, as long as I can log into my Google account in Chrome, now I can log into knows all of my
Mm-hmm.
logins,
Mm-hmm.
preferences, in one hand, that's awesome. Like that is sci-fi. That's like we strive for that. The side effect of that is that is an entity that knows all of this information, knows all of these things. It has built a model of me. So I mean I think that is going to be the forever trade-off, right? Like you can't legislate that because there's a lot of people who are like, I don't care. I would rather have the ease than have to like download another piece of software that is going to keep my passwords and like take
Mm-hmm.
more effort. So that's the one thing. I mean, I think that's not even nefarious. That's just like you want one, you're going to get the other, right? You want us to know all this stuff for you and anticipate your interests and desires. Well, on the other hand, we're going to know all this stuff about you if we're able to anticipate your interests and desires. So it is a trade-off. I mean, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, no. I think I disagree partially, but I agree with the point that I would say, generally speaking, most people want that level of convenience, and they don't want to have to remember all these things. So they want to basically push a button and everything that they like is presented to them. But
Correct.
how I would what I would say is we need to start speaking up more to the fact that especially Americans, I mean, I've only lived in two countries. I can't speak. Maybe it's the same in the Eastern world. Maybe you know more, Chris. Uh, we've traded our privacy for gadgets, for technology, for toys, for entertainment, for convenience. We've traded our personal privacy for that. That's the price we paid to get all that. Now, I think there needs to be more like an educational thing about telling people, yo, yeah, having all these streaming services is cool. Everything is connected to your device. You could do it on your tablet, computer. It's on your smart TV, but you're giving away your privacy, and we don't talk enough about that.
I mean, not even your privacy,
Yeah,
your control, right?
yeah.
There's a term tech feudalism,
Hmm.
which is kind of being used more frequently, but I think there's truth in that. In that, if you think about it, we're also not just moving from privacy; we're moving away from ownership, right? So like when you deal with subscriptions, you really don't own anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying for access. It's like renting an apartment, right? Like I don't have, they can kick me
True.
out. I can make this apartment look beautiful, but tomorrow they could kick me out of it. So like we are moving from an ownership, like if you look in the tech spectrum, techies people back in the day used to be able to buy things and they owned it and then they set stuff up. It was more challenging. Now we pay subscriptions to things and use their service. We moved to a service instead of a product as a service, right? So like I always think about this with Tesla. Like people buy Tesla vehicles. I've driven them once, but like I don't really have any opinion on them. But I do think it's interesting that like if you pay, like it's a subscription, like you need access to the Tesla system to do things. Like if you want to do autonomous driving, I believe you need to be connected to their system. So that means that like your car is working is based off if you're connected to the system, if you're up to date in your payments to that system, right? That means I don't really own this car. Like I own it kind of, but like I also need to pay all of these subscriptions in order to maintain its full functioning, right? If I have Netflix, I can watch all this stuff, but I don't own any of this, right? If
Yeah,
my
true.
Netflix goes away, all of those videos have gone away. Same with like Audible. I download these audiobooks. If I stop paying for Audible, right, I think I can still get access to them. But if that company disappeared, I lost all that access. So I mean, yeah, I mean, that is the world we're living in right now, which is like, I think it is to some degree, it's a changing. People might have pros and cons on it. I think it's kind of negative because you're beholden. If they change their policy. Like imagine if it's a subscription that's really necessary and then they jack the price up. You have no other option. It's like, oh, well, I need this.
It happens all the
I've
time.
invested all this time on this platform. I have all this data here. Okay, there's all right, now you've doubled the price. I guess I'm paying it. So yeah, I mean, you're kind of like in a long-term relationship because you don't own the product.
Yeah, no, that happens all the time. But slowly but surely, every streaming service is getting it's going higher and higher up in price.
Yeah.
Because and then you're getting like the bundle stuff. I don't know, Joe. Joe probably knows more than me. Where now there's packages of different streaming services together. It's getting wild out there. It's wild in the streets right now of the internet game.
I have
But
a question for you too.
yeah,
What do you think about the premise of hacktivism? Like, is it what Anonymous supposedly did? Even though Musk says its mom is probably somewhere else, like Ukraine actually hacking them. But what do you think about the whole idea of like a group like Anonymous hacking Twitter and taking down
I like it.
their website for like 2 days? It's just crazy.
I like it. I mean, I know some people will disagree. I like the chaos. I like toppling the apple cart. I like people that, but for the right reason. So if it's just for shits and giggles, then I mean, sometimes it is, but then no. But if it's for the right reason, if it's there's an end, if the end game, if the goal and the target measure is to uncover and expose what the truth really is of what's going on in the world, then yeah, I'm all for that. I like it.
I'm just looking at my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth, dude, because here's the thing. Like, let's take Twitter, for example. Or let's take like Twitter or any of them. You're attacking. It depends on what you're doing, but let's say it's Twitter, right? You're attacking Elon Musk, let's say. But you also are affecting all of the businesses who run advertising on that platform. So like, right? And I mean,
It's so funny that
small
sorry to
businesses.
interrupt you, but it's so funny you said that. In the little sports world that I follow, the NFL had their free agency thing going on that same day, and everyone was losing their shits because they couldn't find out who was being signed because Anonymous was hacking Twitter on
Good.
that day.
I love that.
So it's
Yeah,
funny you say that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like if you had a problem with an airline and they hacked the airline, let's say, right? And let's say no one gets hurt, but all of these planes are now have to stay there. Well, you've hurt the airline, but you've also affected hundreds of thousands of people who had nothing to do with this problem. So you know what I mean? Like that's how I
Yeah.
guess that's the double-edged sword of that. But again, I kind of like the idea that there are these like cowboys out there. Hold on one second.
Yeah. The puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
Joe, Adam Schefter can go do one. So we don't need to see his videos on the date. That's what
Yeah.
everyone's complaining about.
no,
Come
but
on.
I mean, I think that's just how. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that they exist,
I like them.
but also it's the danger of like if they're a gun, you hope that they're targeting the right victim. You know what I'm saying?
Collateral.
Like
There's going to be collateral damage. Yeah,
correct.
I
And
see.
I mean, and it's not just like merry pranksters where it's like, oh, we mess up with your website. Like there could be. You don't think of the small business person who like does that affect them? Like maybe
Yeah,
they
the
do business
people
through
were
Twitter.
complaining. Yeah, yep.
Right. And now it's like maybe I need Twitter really badly to like for my business or Instagram or whatever. So yeah, that's the double-edged sword. But overall, I think hacktivism is cool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's if you channel it the right way, I'm all for it. I would love to know how to actually do it. It's going to take me years to get good at it, but
And you could
I
go to
would
jail,
love.
so it's probably
Yeah,
worthwhile. Not
is it like a federal crime?
Oh,
Is it?
absolutely.
Then it's
Absolutely.
to hack into.
Go look up Anonymous. There are members that have been prosecuted and are
I
in
think
jail
for like
now.
10 years in jail.
Oh,
something like
all
that.
right. Then no, then I take that back. I don't
Oh
want
yeah,
to go to
dude.
jail.
And I mean, I think
Man.
that's the interesting thing because it's like you have a high schooler who has some skills in computers, and because of these skills, they figure out how to hack into like a nuclear reactor. They're not like in their mind they're not doing anything big, but like they have, and like people go to jail for a long time. There's hackers that have been in jail for like 20 years.
No, I didn't know that. What is there like a statute it's under? It's like cyber law or something?
I have no idea. It depends on probably what you also are doing when you're there, right? Because think
Yeah.
about it, it's like data. You hack into Walmart, you have access to everyone's credit cards that's made a transaction through Walmart.
Yeah, I get
Right?
you. Yeah.
And you hear about these like periodically, right? You'll get an email. Maybe your card was the number was released due to like a cyber attack. Those are hackers who they hack into like a Target, they hack into a big company, and then they they take all the credit cards, and then they get sold to, I don't know, someone in Romania who then makes a bunch of credit cards with those numbers and starts ringing up charges.
Yeah.
So like there is the dark side. Hacktivism is probably more of the light side of like the merry prankster, the Robin Hood kind of figure. But then you also have like, people who kill other people with computers.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no, I like the hacktivism side that's exposing like Epstein Island and stuff like that. Like that.
Yeah.
But I was once victim of that. I got an email from I got a phone call and an email from JP Morgan from Chase Bank, and they said someone spent $780 at Walmart in like some rural town in Texas.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never been to Texas, let alone this like small town in Texas. And they were like, "Was this you?" I was like, "Definitely not." But like it took a long time to like recredit the money, so that I got hacked by one of those schemes. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's the internet is still
Yeah.
a dangerous place. I mean, it's kind of like it's become gentrified in a sense, but there are still like the dark places that rapscallions exist in, and you just gotta be careful. You don't want to wander into them.
Yeah, you don't want to tangle with the weasels.
So just like in the last 20 minutes or so, we can pivot to these releases. So
yeah,
it kind of ties into like with like wiki. The thing about this is like hacktivism can tie into like WikiLeaks, because there were whistleblowers. There were people who got information through hacking and then they sent it to Julian Assange, and then
Yeah,
he
that's a good
released
part
it.
of it. Yeah.
And which I that I think is good. Like you that they released all kinds of things that were being done to people, done to citizens. So like that's why I think hacking is positive, because it's like I can't trust that the government isn't doing things in my best interest, and I don't have access. So in those cases, I think those are like freedom fighters. So
Mhm.
like who was the guy, Joe? It wasn't WikiLeaks. It was Snowden.
Yep.
Snowden the same way. He was a hacker. Like he got some information and then whistleblowed, released it.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about, like, do you think that the Epstein, like, does the government have the Epstein list,
They for
the
sure
Diddy
do.
list, like the JFK files? Obviously, they have the Martin Luther King files,
The UAP.
UAP
See?
files. So do we expect that, like, we're going to see any of that stuff in the next 4 years?
Yeah, yeah, I love this topic because I think we were promised that and they didn't. It goes back to the distraction angle. They started pushing out all these other media narratives and everyone forgot, oh, these files were supposed to be released, and now no one is talking about it anymore because they're too concerned with then the LA fires came and all that other stuff. Then it got completely swept under the rug. Is it going to come out? I hope it does. I don't think it will, though. I don't think it will because it's too. Once you take away the carrot, it's like dangling a carrot. Once you take the carrot, once there's no carrot, there's no reason for the public to like have any desire to keep following and wanting to know the knowledge. And I think that's what's the malicious part about all this is all these files are being kept secret so that people keep looking for it. They want to release. They want to release. They want to release. The carrot is still in front of them. But once the carrot is gone, they're going to be like, okay, then how are we going to manipulate and control the populace in a different way?
Yeah,
Does
and
that
it's
make sense?
like
You see,
teaser trailers.
yeah, it just they keep tickling you. And
So what do you think about, so I was just thinking about this, is like philosophically, do you think that truth, I, maybe truth isn't the wrong word, but like, I'm gonna use the word truth for lack of a better, that it's better for the truth to the truth to come out regardless of the repercussions of that truth? Does that make sense?
yeah. Hmm.
Because
What do you think, Joe?
that would be the, like,
It's dangerous.
when I was
Yeah.
looking up at like anonymous and like criticism, it was kind of
Yeah.
that, like, well, they're releasing things and sometimes there's maybe consequences and they're choosing
Yeah.
the truth, like we're releasing it and come what may. And some would say that that's kind of like a like a childish way to handle reality, like, you know, you're not dealing with the consequences of that action. So I guess that's my question, like, do you think truth has a higher value, like, how do I even explain it? Yeah,
No,
like,
I think you
do
got
that
it.
make sense, Joe? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that
Sorry,
makes
I'm
sense.
rambling.
I would always go on the side of truth no matter the consequences.
Yeah.
I think it's better to have the trust in people that they can figure out what to do with the truth once they get it. But I I would always side on the side of handing that truth out and not hiding it.
What do you got, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's never a bad idea because it's going to come out at some point. You can snake it till you make it, but you can only do that for so long.
I mean,
So
I don't think it'll always come out, but I think the other end of it, the consequences of not putting it
that
out
is fair. Yeah.
sometimes can cause like
Mm.
this alternate reality, so to speak, where people come up with even crazier ideas than what the actual truth is. So I think it's just better to put out the truth to just kind of quash any crazier stories that tend to get out about what really happened.
Yeah, and that's why I think the hacktivism and that these people exist, for better or for worse, it is valuable because I do think like governments hedge a lot, like the JFK files and all this stuff. Like someone is determining the value of that truth and is weighing it against their perceived consequences of that truth coming out, right? And maybe it's in their interest. Like if we release this, it's going to hurt us, or if we release this, we think it's going to hurt the people. It might be inaccurate, but that their how they measure it is essentially affecting if they release it or not. So that's why I do think like these hacker groups are valuable in that they're just going to hunt and find and release, and it's like they are kind of a hedge against the government because also I think if you're worried about whistleblowers, it might also affect you releasing things faster because you're like, you know what? There's been a lot of whistleblowers lately. We can't necessarily trust that like this stuff is going to stay secret. So let's just get it out to the public faster. And like I hope that becomes a byproduct. Like Snowden, I think was like the biggest whistleblower of like the 21st century, maybe. Like that was a huge drop. I hope that like the government reevaluated like, all right, it's more difficult for us to keep things secret now. So maybe we should keep less things secret. So like I think having hackers in the world forces that idea of like, hey guys, like we might not be able to keep the secret for long. So let's just get it out because it's better us getting it out than anonymous or some random whistleblower.
Yeah, it's better to get out
We
in
can
front of it.
control the message, you know?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that leads to another type of like massaging of the narrative, though. But that's why I agree that hackers are a good deterrent. It's almost like an like an unofficial check on the government, and not just the government. I think more of the problem is the corporations, the big pharma, the private equity firms. Those are the ones that are really in conjunction with the government through lobbyists are the ones that are actually fear the hacktivism the most.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's probably that's a coin toss.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, the one thing I would say about corporations, in my opinion, is that like at least within the capitalist model, at least their motivations are somewhat straightforward. It's like it's wealth, right? It's money.
Yeah, it's power, it's control, and
And
money.
but it's through money, right? So it's like you with AI is a perfect example. It's like all of these guys are out there marketing their AI, but they're marketing in the sense of like use mine, right? They want customers because customers is revenue. Governments to me are more unfair. Like I guess it's hard for me to like trust them completely because they don't care about. They don't have customers. It's
They
never
do
been
have
about.
customers, though.
They really don't.
They do. Like
They
they're
do it. They do in the fondest of sense. But here, the difference between a customer and a citizen is that a customer chooses if they want to spend money or not. A citizen pays taxes or they go to jail. That relationship is different
it's not,
by
but it's not
necessity.
that simple, though.
I mean, it kind of is that simple. How is it not?
What-
They choose, well, at least in the American system, it's a republic, so they choose people who theoretically represent the policies that they want, and
But
not everyone, and it's true because there's plenty of rich people who don't pay taxes. It's a system that is
fair.
it's it's a system that's pretty much run by the elite.
Yeah, but I think I don't see like I I with governments in general. I
Hmm.
think governments are like an organism. There are people you elect. This is an American government. You elect some, but what percentage of our government, all of the millions of people who probably work in it, hundreds of
Mhm.
thousands, are elected? And like the vast majority are not. They're employees. They have bosses. They have managers. They have supervisors,
Yeah, but they
and
don't
then
have.
you rotate like elected officials in, but like that organism that exists like election to election.
Yeah,
So
but
like that
those people don't have a decision making authority like the
Hmm.
ones that are elected.
They
I
just
be
they follow through on the
Yeah,
policies that the elected officials and
Yeah.
sometimes unelected officials, especially now,
Yeah.
push through.
Elon.
True, but I think that's like, I think that's what we believe is happening, but I don't think that. Imagine if you're a
See,
manager, you get hired for a job, you're a new manager. Do you go in there and learn every system, or do you see what's working and you trust the people who've been doing it long enough? As long as it appears to be working the way you want it to work, you don't mess around and tinker with too many things. Now, you might, if you're coming in hot, like trying to change the game, you change the game. But think about a very complicated system, right? You have 4 years. Elected officials, they're half of the time that they're elected, their focus turns towards staying elected.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
I think government, the complexity of that organization, elected officials are elected officials. They don't have the depth of knowledge to understand everyone's job, what every single person does, what they've been tasked with, what they might have been doing for the last decade. Like, and that's what you're seeing with these projects that have been unveiled, right? There have been projects been going on behind the scenes for decades.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, maybe some of the elected officials knew about them, but like they've outlived many elected officials. So that, I think that is one of the issues, and it's being fed with tax dollars. So multiple presidents have taken effect, presidents that differ with each other, but they were all feeding these same organisms that were eating up tax dollars. Right? I can choose not to go to Netflix. I can just stop. I can't really stop being an American citizen and paying my taxes.
Yeah.
I could, but that's
Yeah,
very
I was gonna
drastic.
say. I was gonna say you could.
Yeah, but see, Chris, here's the thing. I hear you what you're saying, but I disagree. I'm more with Joe.
Fair enough. Yeah.
If we had a dartboard, yeah, and it's like the conspiratorial shadow dartboard. You're going for number 16, which is the government. I'm going for the bullseye, which is the big billionaire class money men.
Oh, see, I disagree with that the hierarchy then.
No, the bullseye is where the big corporations who actually, I think, have more influence on the government, who then enacts the
That's
control on the people.
That's unquestioned that they have more influence on the government.
Yeah.
The government makes policy based off of
Off of
corporate,
their
multinational
preferences.
corporate influence.
Well, yeah, okay, we can agree to disagree on that one because I don't think. I mean, I think corporations are corporations, but like corporations is a blanket statement, right? There's many corporations. Some may be more nefarious than others. Some have more power than others. Some have more influence than others do. But like, if you're a corporation, you can't put someone in jail. Government can. Like,
I think you're wrong there.
oh,
I think
they
you're wrong.
definitely
They can get to the government to put someone in jail.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough. I mean,
see
fair
what I'm
enough.
saying?
You guys have like you think that the boogeyman in our society are the corporations.
Yep.
I would think some are, but
Because
I
they
don't.
control government.
I
Yeah.
don't believe in that 100%. No,
Oh, my.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, no. I think they're part of the arm of what's
I
wrong.
mean, Joe, I
But-
believe in there's elites, but I don't think. I think a government historically, every government is a self-fulfilling entity that wants to grow and control as much as it can.
Sure.
Now,
That is
Name me a
power-
government. Name me a government that has gotten smaller.
yeah. I was gonna say power
Fair.
always wants more power.
Never.
But they're still controlled by corporations.
right, it's at the behest of the people that control the
They're
finance.
literally funded by corporations. They have campaign finance through PACs and corporations.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's I think that's where I disagree, and I think this will be a conversation for another day. But like,
Mhm.
if you think of a government, this is how I think of a government. I think a government is an organism, right? And then you have these two other organisms, parasites, let's say, that jump on it. Let's call them the Republicans and the Democrats. The organism exists regardless of if they exist. If tomorrow there was two different political parties that just appeared, Democrats and Republicans disappeared, and now we had the X party and the Y party, the government organism would still be the government organism. They would just graft themselves onto it. it's a power entity. It's a weapon. It's a gun. Political parties are just like manifestations of like what people think, right? We can imagine two different. There's the Nickelodeon party, and then there's the
Yeah, like
ESPN party.
just the ideologies.
And then if they ran for the government would still be operating pretty much the same. That's my opinion on it.
Okay, but I think that proves our point. I'll counter that. That proves our point that regardless of if you have any party, you know who's really in control.
No,
you see
because
what I'm saying?
the corporations don't control. They can influence. I don't disagree with that because fundamentally the elected people can be influenced by money. I don't disagree with that.
Mhm.
But I think the mechanisms of the government and all of its complexity, like that tree of rooms and directors and subdirectors and that exists whether a different
All right.
captain may
But
captain
they
the ship.
follow a chain of command.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It starts from the top.
Yeah, see, let me ask you a question.
They don't operate independently.
Let me ask you a
That
question,
I
Chris.
understand that. Well,
Yeah.
some of those departments they have a chain of command. Go ahead, whatever. We're
Yeah,
kind of
no.
diverging.
No. This is good. This is part of the conspiracy shit. Let me ask you a question, Chris. Who's the smarter, you said, organism? Who's smarter, the billionaire wealth class or the people that you say work the mechanism of the government? Who's the more intelligent group of people?
I mean, I don't even think you can answer that question.
I think.
But what do you mean by smart?
I think
there are many billionaires.
Yeah.
There are many billionaires, and all of those billionaires have their own interests.
Right, but they know how to rule better than the government.
I would say, but I mean, I don't think that's. Think about this: if you have many billionaires, they all have interests. Their interests diverge from each other. Elon Musk's interests diverge from Sam Altman's interests. They are competitors. Now, they might also all try to gain influence and garner influence with the government, but they're not like an oligarch class all working together. Like they're not, because they all would like to destroy each other because they're all competition. So I don't think it's like a cabal. Now, I do think
that's true.
Right? Because they're not. Like you can see it every time Elon Musk comments negatively about Sam Altman and OpenAI. It's because they have diverging goals. Like they're waging their own battle. They have a lot of money, therefore they have influence.
Yeah.
But influence is not control. Influence is influence.
Influence is control.
Influence is influence, but like no, it's not. Dude, it's not the same thing, dude. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
If I can influence you some of the time, that means sometimes I say something, you do what I say, and I get something out of it. Sometimes I don't. I'm not in control. Sometimes you adhere to my influence. Sometimes you don't.
No, I think
control is I give you a command and you do it. That's not influence. That's obeying.
Yeah, that's fair. It's by like laws and policies, but I think your disdain of the government is a little misplaced, Corvo. I think you give them too much credit.
I mean,
they're not as conniving as you think.
I mean, bro, so the Epstein list, who's controlling the release of that? You're saying it's the corporations?
It's BlackRock and Vanguard and JP Morgan.
Okay. Yeah. What about JFK?
Same.
See, I think that's like you're misplacing your reasoning.
No. Then
so you think the JFK assassination, you think some corporation is preventing that from being released?
I think like Joe said.
I mean, I don't know about now.
Put up Martin Luther King.
That's probably more governmental, but still they have a
UAPs for however you fall on that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let me ask you this question: who do you think? This is a loaded question. Who do you think is responsible for JFK assassination?
That's a Rob question.
No, I think. Oh man, this is too long. I can't answer this in 5 minutes.
So
the government, I would say, I'll concede that. I would say the United States government.
Why do you think it would be the government?
Because there's a lot of things that JFK was doing that would have been good for the nation, policy wise, and he was basically rocking the boat a little bit, not a little bit, a lot actually, and
Like
They're
not trusting the
he-
CIA.
yeah.
Okay.
What's his name?
I thought he was
Dulles.
told like disbanding certain
Yeah,
agencies in the government.
yeah. So he was a shit stirrer. Basically, that's why they needed him out.
Because he got burned bad with the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to trust the CIA and the military industrial complex that Eisenhower keenly pointed out.
Yeah, and
But
I
yeah,
thought,
but
did he try to disband or was talking about disbanding the CIA?
that I don't know.
I thought he was just trying to disband.
No, he was. He literally was. And then RFK came. The senior RFK came afterwards.
But then the
tried
true
to do the same
question
thing.
to me, and I think I have my answer to it. But why do you think that? Like, I feel like JFK didn't want to escalate the war in Vietnam. But why do you think there was such a push to escalate the war in Vietnam?
It was a drug trade. It was for the opium and the heroin that was there. That's why. And it was defense contracting as well. This is what I'm talking about, Chris. It's more it's the money, man.
I think it's the money too. It's having that influence, and that's something that Trump actually alludes to a lot. Just like the trade aspect, like having more markets open to trade goods to and receive goods from, is big. And I felt like at that time, the 50s, 60s, they wanted to open up markets to sell American goods too. And you can't do that if
That's
it's a
also a good
communist
point.
if it's a communist state.
Yeah.
They wanted to be able to control and influence and dominate through American multinational corporations.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm trying to think about Vietnam. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff there. No, I don't disagree with that because, again, also GDP. Like, a government exists. The bigger the GDP is, the more money the government will have access to, essentially. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't disagree that there's a deep relationship. I'm just maybe disagreeing with, like, who's the one. I think these multinational corporations are, in a sense, agents of. It's a incestuous relationship, right? Because they benefit, because they are essentially arms of a government, right? Like, Apple, in a sense, is an arm of the government. Wherever it goes out into the world and conquers, it benefits. I mean, it is. It's 100%.
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it is the other way around.
I think the government is the arm of.
I think
that. Yeah.
To use an analogy of like a police force, I think a corporation is the police commissioner, and then the government is the police itself.
Oh, dude, I can so completely
it's
disagree.
The force, the money is the commissioner, and the government is the force.
So what happens? Okay, so is that been true since when?
Since the Rothschilds. Since the Rothschilds.
So at least with the American.
So who's deciding within this hierarchy of billionaires? Who takes over when one dies out? Because obviously they're not all, or is the Rothschilds still the ones in power through all of the current corporations?
Yes.
So
I'm not touching that one.
So they're connected to Apple.
Oh yeah,
and they're
better
connected
believe it.
to Elon Musk's Tesla, and Microsoft, and all
Yep.
these. So yeah, I mean that's when you go down this. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Like,
no, the degree of it is varying.
Because corporations die out.
Yeah,
wealthy people live on, and wealthy people will always have influence. But wealthy people don't have influence just sheerly out of wealth. I think they can in certain cases, but a government, a corporation, has leverage, right? It's like I can see why it has power. Definitely now because they're multinational.
Where you're correct is the government can actually legislate and enact laws that can affect you personal
100%.
life. And,
Microsoft was literally broken up by legislation.
So it's
Google is about to be broken up through legislation as well.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm saying that it could not, but if legislation passed, it would be. Whether it gets passed, I don't know. But it's kind of you know what I mean? In AOC, if she became the populace, the majority ethos.
I don't know about that one either.
Okay. Nah, she's from my neck of the woods.
I get that, but
not a fan of hers.
She's become more like Pelosi. She's
okay.
straight away from what she
Yeah.
initially started.
But
I
I'm just
agree.
using her
Yeah.
as an archetype. If
No,
someone like
you're
a
right.
radical
I
version
get what
of
you're
her
saying. Yeah.
who didn't change, become corrupted, let's say, took over, they could enact legislation that would like destroy some of these entities. So I think it's an incestuous relationship. I'll leave it at that. That's my perspective. Maybe
Yeah, and
different times one has more hand than the other, but I don't think it's a clear you're in charge, I'm not. I think it depends on the day. Maybe depends on the president. Maybe depends
yeah.
on
So
the crisis.
you think it's like a left pocket, right pocket type of thing? Like it can change at any time. We could just move the power
I think it's a
between
power dynamic,
the
right?
same pair of
Like it
pants. Yeah.
depends on the situation, who has more leverage in a given
Yeah.
situation, right?
I
Some cases you might have more, like let's say some one unique billionaire. Some
yeah.
cases the government, because the government is many. A corporation or one CEO is one. But go
Yeah.
ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No.
But
No.
that's the thing. It's usually not one. It's like a board or of people, and that
True, fair, but I mean, again, it's like when you see these, we do live in the world where it's like, go ahead. Sorry, Rob, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, Joe, finish. Go ahead. Or Joe?
no, I
You were
wasn't gonna say no. I
you
was
were
just
you were done.
I was
Yeah.
just countering what Chris was saying.
Yeah. No. I think. Yeah, I hear like I've been saying. I hear what you say, Chris, but I think you if this was a pyramid of power or like a snakes and ladders type of thing, I think you have the government way higher than it should be.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
All right,
I
fair
think
enough.
it's but it
I
makes
think
sense
we
because
should
of your
definitely
disdain
save
for the
this.
government. Yeah,
We should definitely save this for a later podcast.
Yeah,
this should be a
I think
whole
it's
new.
also shows your disdain, which I don't know where it comes
Yeah,
from.
I'm
of,
biased as
of
well.
corporations,
Yeah.
considering.
I know for me personally, I've just seen this in the 2000s. I've seen way too much, like the Iraq War, the first one particularly, all because of like the multinational oil companies, and then circled back again to the second one, and then the 2007 2008 financial crisis. It's just too much.
Well, that yeah, I
There's
mean,
so much evidence there to show how influenced and how the puppet strings are manipulated
Yeah,
by
it's
these
all.
corporations.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, exactly.
I'm
So
a
my
prisoner of
last.
my time, so that
Yeah.
might be a bit of it too. But those are like the main
No.
events that I've seen.
So
go ahead.
so this is another good transition. So my last question. This is we'll probably end
Yeah,
on
we'll
the
wrap on this one. This is good. This was heated.
So
I like
yeah,
it.
no, this is what the people want. So do you considering the control or the alleged control of corporate America and the government? Do you think there's a manipulation of voting going on with like the hacktivism and corporate like lobbyist interests and special interests and stuff like that? Are they manipulating the elections, which would actually
What is your
prove that they
definition of
control?
manipulating elections, though?
They're picking the candidates and they're decreasing and increasing vote tallies from different
I don't know
places.
about the
Yeah,
increasing and
yeah,
decreasing vote tallies,
yeah.
but in terms of picking like candidates, sure, probably. But I think it's really more just the ads, it's the TV ads,
Or
the
the
social
like
media ads.
the money
That
backing.
is clear that's there. Like you have PACs that or super PACs that don't have a clear definition of who's funding them, and they're pushing out narratives on both sides of the aisle to try to influence the election. That's clear to me. But the other stuff, when it comes to like vote tallies, no, I don't think they do that.
Like hiding votes, you don't think that's happening?
No.
Yeah. All right.
Are you saying? Do you think that hackers are doing this? Or
No, I'm saying hackers are the ones that are trying to expose this, and the money men. I'm gonna call them the shadow masters are the ones that are selecting candidates and potentially hiding votes in certain areas of the country.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
If we expand this worldwide, I'd say
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. What
Right? 'Cause
about domestically?
Domestically, I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that someone said this. I think it was good. It says like every election, someone is trying to tamper. It's just a question if it is in fact tampered. Like that's worldwide. I think that's a natural truth of anything, right? There's always going to be someone trying to, if they can break the rules and win, they do it in sports. Politics is no different. So I think assume that someone is always trying to rig. I think this is true. To rig and win.
Yeah,
Are they
I
able to
agree
do
with
it? I don't know. Maybe sometimes, and depending on the scale. And I do think like hacktivists would be like, if they found that out, like that would be something that they would try to find and release to the world if they could.
For
Yeah,
sure.
so you think if it has been going on, it would have come out already at this
No,
point?
I think it is going on. It's just
Yeah,
maybe they
yeah.
haven't found it. I mean, maybe there's not a
Right.
paper trail. Because also imagine they're living in the digital world, right? They can only get data that's digitized. It might just not be something that they find, or it's in some deep file. Like who knows if they could stumble across it.
It's in an X
But
file.
I imagine there is like some hacker out there trying to figure out if I don't know, pick a random
Like
election.
if Trump really won Pennsylvania or something like
correct.
that. Yeah,
There's probably some kid
yeah.
out there trying to figure it out. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Yeah. No, I would agree. I agree with that as well. So there is a mechanism of election manipulation. I think we all three of us agree on that. Then in America,
I think
I'm not speaking for the
manipulation
rest of the
is
world.
I don't know if I
That's
like
not the right
using
word.
that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe's just saying like there is always a sense of someone is trying to influence
Mhm.
an outcome.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Whereas you're
that's
saying
fair.
like is someone mechanically trying to like
changing
rig.
the numbers. Yeah.
I say both. To me, I think it's both. 100%.
Oh yeah. There's no question that there's influence.
The influence the influence is like to Joe's point. It is kind of ridiculous that I mean, is it ridiculous? Well, I guess it's like what I was going to say is like, should you have to declare who's funding you?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What is it? What is a pact actually, Joe? Do you know
It's
the
a
name?
group of people who actually are in a political action committee that are pushing a certain candidate for election. That's what a PAC is, a political action committee. And it's just a group of people that bound together.
Are they a
And they pull
nonprofit
their,
essentially?
I believe so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think
So
so.
they get funded, but they don't have to tell you who's funding them.
It depends on the type of PAC.
Yeah.
Some have to disclose who's funding them, some don't. And it shouldn't be some don't. It should be
Yeah.
all. You should find out who is
Mhm.
responsible, who's behind the funding.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because if you're voting for someone and you might not let's say you're voting for someone and you don't like a person and that person is putting in money
Yeah.
to push out the candidate that you want, some people would think twice about voting for that person if that person that they don't like is funding the person that they do like.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that makes sense, and I think it should be more the case.
Yeah.
It should just be like you gotta. Everyone's doing 3 hours, 10 hours of podcasts. Like
You're right.
all the
You were one of the first people to
yeah,
say
it's
it.
just like you need to be doing you just gotta talk nonstop.
Yeah.
It should be a gauntlet of podcasts you have to go through. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Anyway.
Joe, the last question,
Yeah.
but I mean, this is where I'm out of my depth. Aren't there campaign finance laws that are supposed to regulate all the contributions and donations?
Yes, but I think Citizens United kind of nerfed those laws.
Oh God! So it's a free for all now, is what you're saying?
It's not
Is
a
it?
complete free for all because there's like a certain cap in terms of how much you can spend, but some people can just come up with an anonymous. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
An anonymous pack and then keep funding. Like it's kind of like whack a mole where you throw money at a certain pack and then once you're done with that cap, then you can throw it at another one, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be
Yeah.
one person can spend at a particular point, and then that's it. You're maxed out. You can't spend anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I agree with that.
Chris, you remember the Curb? That reminds me of the Curb episode where Ted Danson donates a wing to a museum,
Yeah.
and Barbara Boxer, Joe, remember Barbara
Yeah,
Boxer, the senator from California? and he calls himself anonymous, but everyone knows this Ted Danson. So what's the point of being anonymous if everyone knows who you are?
Exactly.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, that was
It's
a good
not fair.
explanation.
And Larry was like, "It's not fair. Everyone knows it's him, but it's
Yeah.
anonymous."
He gets all the acclaim.
Right? Yeah. That's
I'm-
what campaign finance looks like to me.
I'm kind of surprised you guys didn't hit up on the UFO aspect of it.
Maybe we do it too much. It
I
wasn't-
mean, we talk about aliens all the time. Yeah,
And
all the time.
I kind of wanted to hit more on the JFK thing because I feel like there was this is just my personal belief. I just think that the powers that be at that time didn't want to change course. They didn't want to have
Yeah, I agree with that.
detente. They didn't want to kind of keep things or bring things down a notch. They wanted to actually tick it up. And I felt like he paid the price for wanting to change the direction of where the Cold War was going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
man.
you very well versed in the JFK assassination, Joe?
So,
In that history, that historical period?
yes, and he was the first president that I actually really took an interest in.
Okay.
Interesting.
So my question to you is, did Lee Harvey Oswald do it, Joe?
Oh my
What do you
God.
think?
I think he did. I just think
Was it just him then?
I think he might have been manipulated to do it.
There we go.
Well, maybe we'll do an episode on broadly speaking, the life of JFK.
That would be a good episode.
Could Joe, are you well versed enough in
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, maybe we could do that because then that kind of I think it's an interesting period of time because you're going to get Cold War, Vietnam, Bay of Pigs,
Even World War
And then
II. He was
World War
involved in
II.
that too.
Missile crisis.
and then you get his death. We kind of like focus on the mystery around his death, but like he did a lot, like even in the time he had. And I'm not nearly as versed in his life as I probably should.
He even mentioned that his life, he was afraid of the Cuban Missile Crisis because of the effect that it would have on his children
Yeah,
and all the children that are around. He said that he lived a plentiful life, and he wanted to pass on a world to his kids where they could live a good life. So
yeah, and that's like that. We can end with that. Like I think that's not many politicians, not many leaders, I should say. Leave it at that. Have that as their guiding principle, I think, where
Very rare.
they look to the next generation and say, like, I want to make it better for you rather than make choices that were actually going to steal away your future. I think we've had too many people in power who've made decisions like that, and they don't care about like their grandchildren or their great grandchildren's generation.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Because then we can get, speaking of that, we can get into his brother's son, his own son, JFK Jr. as well. Then you get into the JFK's personal life, which was the man was a Casanova.
man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is true. He got around.
So like his entire family too is an interesting topic as well. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of the Draxx Life. Hope you enjoyed. Catch us on the next one. Peace.
Peace.